When a project grows, it's common to split the code up into different source files. In these cases, the interface and implementation are generally separated. The interface is placed in a header file that commonly has the same name as the source file and a .h file extension. This header file contains forward declarations for the source file's code that needs to be accessible to other files in the project. Remember that C++ requires everything to be declared before it can be used. It's not enough to just compile the source files in the same project. For example, if we place a function in the myfunc source file and try to call it from my app, the compiler tells us that it cannot find the function. To make this work, we have to include the function's prototype in my app. This can be made more convenient if we instead place the prototype in the myfunc header file and include the header file in my app through the use of the include directive. This way, if we want to make changes to myfunc's return type or arguments, we don't have to update every source file that uses this function. And any source file that wants to use the shared code in myfunc can just include this one header. The key idea is that the header should contain the interface of the implementation file, that is, the code that the other source files will need to use. For example, the header may include shared constants and macros. It should also contain prototypes of the shared functions defined in the source file. Shared classes, on the other hand, should be defined in the header, while their methods are implemented in the source file. The header should not include any executable statements, with two important exceptions. First, if a shared member function or non-member function is declared as inline, that function must be defined in the header. Otherwise, calling that inline function from another source file will give an unresolved external error. The second exception is shared templates. Since templates are not compiled until they are required, the implementation of a shared template class or function must be in the header file together with its declaration. An important thing to keep in mind when using header files is that any code entity may only be defined once in every source file. Therefore, including the same header file more than once will likely result in compilation errors. To avoid this problem of multiple definitions, preprocessor directives are often used to create a so-called include guard. We then enclose the header in an if not defined section that checks for a macro specific to that header file. Only if the macro is not defined will the file be included, and this will also define the macro, which effectively prevents the file from being included again.